In Edo State, government and the APC squabble over the planned protest. In Bauchi State, the governor says that Tinubu's policies are ineffective. And also, President Tinubu appeals for patience from... Before I call in our guests, we'll take that little break for commercials and we'll be back. Before you know it, don't move an inch. We'll be right back.
So no agreement with the EU, but
welcome back to Atn Politics on Atlantic Television Network right here in Port Harcourt. I am your host Raymond Ken Mbata, and our guest today is backed by popular demand.
Yeah. Permit me, it's even very expensive to qualify them that they are democratic leaders. But from what we can see, they are a million miles far from the values, the core values of a democratic leader or a Democrat, who first of all must believe in free expression, participation, freely, without any encumbrances, should freely participate. Equal right must be respected. The rule of law must be respected. Party ideology must be supreme. But the crop of politicians we find in Nigeria largely are a million miles far. They don't believe in this. So anytime there is this kind of moral crisis, like F. Kennedy we call it, they are quick to whip up very pedestrian, petty things to preoccupy the mind of, undiscerning and unsuspecting public. So that's why you find all these counter accusations and very unfounded suspicion and fears. Otherwise, how else would one explain that if it is not true, particularly like if you want to dwell on Edo State now,
Yes.
was it not just seconds after Shaibu was affirmed by the Supreme Court to go reoccupy his position?
Exactly.
I watched his interview, how to the extent of even talking to the CP of the state, but just minutes after he alighted the airport gates or got through, he was faced with gunshots and
Yes.
so at that time, remember, there was no end bad governance. So
Yes,
what,
yes.
who will they point at that
Okay.
sponsored that? Till date, we are yet to unravel
Exactly.
the sponsors.
And the death of a policeman.
Thank you, fine. I can't even afford to forget that. May he so rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
Now, in serious society, where serious people and serious government take serious issues seriously, that won't be swept under the carpet.
Exactly.
So, and many more, and just countless of such instances. It was before this protest. So, in all, the protest is a sharp confirmation that there is failure of leadership. Irresponsible for that matter, because in fact, yesterday I was in a sister station, and I tried to point out, I said, look, the way it is going now, it has become necessary to criminalize manifestos. Since we don't have it as part of our political culture, we have public officers whom clearly very considerable facts and of the state. If you love the state, you won't be trading blames in the circumstance.
Exactly.
Your focus will be how to appease and persuade protesters and communicate to them in a manner that proves that you are prepared to do things differently.
Yeah.
You are not concerned about that. First of all, there hasn't been accountability, which is actually the hallmark. In fact, as if the great faller now is spat into my mouth or my spat into his mouth. Yesterday, in fact, my host was amazed when I was suggesting so we can tolerate that. Not clearly when there are practical indicators that we are under a military junta.
Exactly.
You know, so I was suggesting, I said, look, it is high time the federal, particularly the senators, you must, because it is their failure, their constitutional, social responsibility, moral responsibility, legal responsibility to hold the executive, to whom now the attention is, which is led by the president at the federal level. So that is why many times too, since 99, you find if anything goes wrong, the people, when they were plots to overthrow Caesar, you know, the likes of Pompey, they pose that question because that is the natural difference from tyranny or dictatorship.
Yes.
Therefore, if policies and programs of government don't actually reflect or satisfy the demands, the needs, the yearnings of the people, the first port of call, the man that more questions should be channeled to, is the lawmaker.
It's the lawmaker.
Because we all can't be in the government house at the same time.
Exactly.
That is why we collectively donated our authority
In
to
fact,
you.
the executive are like the poster boys.
Exactly. But if you look, the practical reality now is that the executive appears to be the actual culprit.
Yes.
Because we are carried on with the mentality to think that we have a military head of state there.
Exactly.
So I think that the earlier we realize that, of course, that's why myself and a couple of team, we feel we launched a campaign, this recall process. It's constitutional, section 69.
Recall process, yes.
Because I just think, because I sympathize with some of us who had actually exhausted energy, time, sustained this process. Very commendable, at least standing against all with all the threats. You can see, it raises the issue of legitimacy.
Yeah.
Out attending functions outside the country. But I recall that build up to the 2023 elections, even the River State, he was able to visit. The same one that President Buhari.
Yes.
There is no culture. If actually you derive, like section 14 sub 2 had said, sovereignty belongs to the people.
Exactly.
From whom the constitution derives its authority, from where the government, from where the constitution derives its power.
Yeah.
That's section 14 sub 2. That sovereignty belongs to the people. What is sovereignty? Their power, the ability to make law and enforce it. So if the law says it belongs to the people, is to the extent you can see how serious, why you as a senator or a House of Rep member, you're not on your own.
Exactly.
In fact, they also at the point when I made a case to say, when they say, you can't, the only legitimate way to change a government is through election, I say it's not totally correct. If we go by that provision. Yes, okay. If you have a clear understanding of, we say sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom the constitution derives its powers, from where the government derives its authority. I think it's another cause for another day.
Exactly.
It's something the civil society and those of us who are championing this must commit our time and energy. It's not a one-off thing. We need to create that culture